Yes, with recall, I do everything. I'm very methodical with the way I do things. I used to be a teacher, and I actually my started life as a musician. So it went, and I played a piano and flute, and I got to quite a high standard. But the way I got there was breaking it down. You know, if I wanted to learn something, I had to do one hand, then the other. I did it slowly. I put it together, and gradually, you know. So you're building it up very slowly, so that in the end, you're really proficient at what you got. You can't sort of jump in. If you just jump in and do it, you know, any old thing, it might be quite reasonable, but it's not going to be so good. So I think, like with everything, recall, it's apart from the fact that the dog's instinct, some dogs, I mean, you're going to get a sight hound who's going to get much more reactive to something running, but on the whole, that probably is a question of spending much more time on the basics. So how I look at this, I'm just remember to keep my eye on the people who might want to come in. How I look at this is we need to do it more or less in three stages. The first thing is people have a weird way of thinking that the dog is born understanding English. And, you know, people just call the dog's name, that somehow the dog is psychic, and depending on the tone of voice, that the dog's going to come. So my first thing, really, very breaking it down, is with the puppy, is getting it so that their name alone brings a reaction. It doesn't get the dog coming to you, but it gets immediately that looking in your eye, yes, me. So that you've got, first of all, you've got the puppy's name. And I think it's the same with older dogs, to be honest with you, who don't come back. First of all, what's the point of calling come millions of times when the dog's not even paying any attention to you? So you need to get the dog's attention first, okay? And then the next thing is what you're going to do. Are you going to use a word? Are you going to use a whistle? What are you going to use? I mean, I prefer the word come to here because it's a little bit more sharp. And really, I think a whistle's great, but it's up to each person. What do you tend to use, Rachel?
We say Ted come. So yeah, we're using just
you say come. And what do you use, Victoria? What do you tend to?
I'm a whistler.
Do you use a whistle or do you whistle?
I used to use a whistle, but I am absolutely hopeless and kept losing it. So I thought, well, it's not very often I'm going to lose my voice. So I decided to then go with just my whistle myself.
I suppose when you've got different people calling the dog, then, you know, it's quite good to have a whistle because it can be the same sound, can't it? Whereas you go, yeah. What do you use, Stephen? When you call your dog, what do you just call? I can't hear you.
Normally we just call him.
Sorry?
How better? Normally we just call him, don't we? But if he's quite far away, I might whistle because he can whistle quite loud. So
what sort of dog is he? What sort of dog is he?
He's a Cocker Spaniel.
He's a Cocker. And how old?
6 months.
Oh, we're just going to be very busy then.
Yeah.
I think some dogs are just more challenged than others, really. Yes, so my first thing really is to get it so that make quite sure the dog pays attention when you say the dog's name. And the next thing really is to build that cue so that it's almost, it's a reflex. And that means that it has to be done over and over and over again, like my practicing scales. I mean, you know, the dog has to, if you really want the dog, say you're trained to the whistle, I would say perhaps before you even take puppy anywhere, you've going to have called him, whistled him at home, in the room where he's near you, walked about, keep whistling and feeding whistle food, say 200-300 times before you try using it anywhere else, because then it's going to be more or less of a reflex. So, I mean, if you throw me a ball, I'm going to do that. It's automatic. I'm not going to think, oh, what shall I do? So when the dog hears the whistle, it should not be shall I come, shan't I, is there. So it means really that there's a lot of whistling when you know the dog's coming anyway. And another good thing about a whistle is you can give each family member a whistle, send them all into different parts of the house and garden, and be whistling the dog to you. So it's all the time, it's built up. So now you've got the cue. And so the next thing then to add to it is a bit of difficulty, is a bit of, say, distraction. So because to start with, you're doing it really when you know the puppy's going to come or the dog's going to come. That's the only time to do it. Don't set him up to fail. Now you start making it a little bit more difficult. So maybe you whistle him in from the garden when you think he might not want to come. You whistle him when you're on a walk, but he's on a long line. You don't do it when his head's down a rabbit hole. You know, so you just build it up and build it up. You put more and more distractions. And then, of course, one day is going to come, he's going to ignore you. What's going to happen then? You go back to the stage before and do that a few more times until you get it right. I know it's a very boring thing, but I think the dogs with the best recall are the ones who've had the most work put in. Then we have adolescence, don't we? Where the dog thinks, right, I understand what I meant to do. I don't care about your treats. I want to do my own thing. I think that's where the whole play thing comes in. I don't know, you've heard of what they call them. It's sexier than a squirrel. What's it?
Absolute dogs.
Absolute dogs. I mean, that is genius, really, because the people themselves are making themselves so they're just is so enticing themselves. The way that they play the games with the dogs, they're so much more exciting than a squirrel. And I think that is where this is quite a new thing, really. I think using play to really make the person has to be so relevant, so important, so much more important than anything else that the dog wants to do. And so it means putting a lot of effort in. It doesn't mean taking a ball player out to the park and throwing the ball. That doesn't mean that at all. It means it is engaging with the dog. I mean, I would say have a look at it, absolute dogs, because that's the principle of it. Do you do that, Victoria?
I do actually. I'm an absolute dogs pro dog trainer. So, but games is a very big thing for me, and I think when you can make yourself more exciting than the environment, you know, 9.9 times out of 10, your dog's going to want to return to you because they know that that's where the really, really good stuff happens. Yes. So even if there is a bit of fox poo or something over there, when they get that call or when they get that whistle, you know, maybe the tug comes out and we play a bit of tug and we play a bit of fetch, and that for them is then becomes more exciting than maybe eating poo. So
they build up first this particular game and all the rest of it. They build that relationship first, don't they, before they start using it. So the dog hears whatever cue it is and thinks, oh, whoopee, I know what we're going to do. And I think also they use variety as well. They don't always do the same old boring game and the same old thing. I think the whole thing, they keep the dog on his toes. And I'm sure that is the thing for adolescents. I think with puppies, they don't need to do it really, because puppies sort of come back anyway, don't they?
Yeah, I think we're very lucky with puppies, aren't we? Puppies want to be around us.
Yeah.
So now is the time to start paying into that bank account and trying to get that recall, because they love us at the moment. It's when they get to adolescence, they find everything else apart from us more interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, like our kids do. So, I mean, I think that's where you have to build it up and be really, really enticing. I think, I mean, I myself don't know a load of these games and the rest of it, but I'm sure as a principle, it is a perfect way of doing it. I think the other thing,
it makes it fun for the owners as well as the dogs, and that's what I really love, because you get a lot of owner buy-in. It's not typical obedience, which I think a lot of people still think dog training is. You know, it is fun, so you want to do it, and the dog wants to do it, so it's good fun.
Yes, no, it's not obedience at all, is it?
No.
No, I think that's the answer. Do you have, let's ask Stephen, I'm asking you because I can see your name. I don't know, I can't see.
And this is Becca.
Becca, right. Do you have trouble with when you want your dog to come to you? You've got an adolescent dog, really, haven't you?
Yeah, but he's still at that stage where he sort of wants to be with us, really, so he'll like wander off a little bit, and but no, he does always come back at the minute, doesn't he, really?
Yeah, if he notices he's a long way away, if he notices he's out of range, he comes straight back probably without being called, and it doesn't take much. Like I say, if he is a long way away for what he's used to anyway. A whistle will kind of be enough for him to just realise and think he's coming back. The strange thing is when he comes back, he's never that fussed. Like, he'll run straight past us.
If he say there's another dog there or something else he wants to do, does he come back then?
So we've been trying to I don't think we've been quite brave enough to leave him off the lead when there's a lot of other dogs around. So we do have a field near our house where people walk their dogs off the lead, and we walk him there on the lead, and then we'll let him off the lead when there's not really that many dogs around. But he gets very excited when he is on the lead and the other dogs, and he wants to play. So we're a little bit nervous that he might just leg it and then not come back.
See, that is what the whole thing is about, really. That's the whole thing about recall, isn't it? It's not recall when it's easy. It's recall when you really need recall is when perhaps there is an aggressive dog about, or there's a car or something. That's when you really, really need it. So that, I would say, in a case like yours where the dog's recall is so good anyway, you need to keep building on that. So that it's sort of automatic.
I think it's more us.
Pardon?
Yeah, I think it's more us like being a little bit nervous around that, because when we're all together, he is brilliant. But Steve took him out on your own, didn't you? And
he decided he was going to go home without me.
So he's fine when we're all together because he wants to be with us, but when we take him on our own, he's not. He just wants us all to be there. So sometimes, like I put in the comments, he gets really frustrated and he just barks when we're not all there, or when we're not all like walking together. If the kids have run off, he gets really annoyed about the fact that the kids are way in front and we're here, and he's like, everybody needs to be together.
Yeah, or if we stop.
Yes, that's. I think that's quite common, isn't it? And that is difficult. That is quite a big ask.
Sorry, Theo, I didn't mean to cut across you.
No, I think we've got a bit of delay, haven't we, with you? I don't know.
Zoom's been rubbish all day.
Yes, I think the thing is just to keep practicing it. It's always got. Do you reward him when he comes back to you?
Try to, but he's not that fussed.
We don't have a very high reward though, because our treats are sort of his food.
It doesn't have to be food, does it?
Yeah, we think we need to look at these games that you were just saying about.
I think you should look at that.
So we'll have a look at that because I haven't heard about that before. So
yes. And the thing is, when you do call him back and you do something he loves, you've got to find out what that is. You don't need to carry on with that thing for too long, do you, Vic?
No.
It's just a bit of it. In a way, I would think it's a bit enough for him to want a bit more, really, so that he's going to come back and have some more next time, Yeah.
He does love tug of war, doesn't he? So that's probably something that we can use for him. So
yes, so you have to make it very exciting. The tug toy is not just give him the thing. You really have to involve yourself in it, don't you? Really, it's to do with. It really is to do with you being so relevant that you're better than the fox poo or the squirrel or the whatever. I mean, you have to be quite enthusiastic, I think.
Yes.
It doesn't suit. I know I don't know their name. I always forget his name. And the one who does the absolute dogs.
Oh, Tom Mitchell. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, he is enthusiastic to nth degree. I don't think anybody could be quite so fired up.
I don't know where they get their energy from, Theo. I've got no idea.
It exhausts me to watch them, but it's good. That's what I would really do. What about you then, Rachel? Does he come back to you?
He does, but to be honest, he just, similar to what Stephen and Becca said, he quite often will run straight past me in excitement and sort of shoots past my legs, and then he will sort of eventually then come back, but it seems really you want him to stop at your feet, I guess, don't you?
In a way, now you've got a little bit of a problem in some ways, in that because he's so excited near you and wants to jump up and bite your legs and all the rest of you make yourself too exciting. It's just possible it might backfire on you. But if you make yourself excited with an object, so that he's coming back, say it was a tug toy.
What, on a walk, like a toy?
Yes. A tug toy, something that he can come back and play, then he's not going to be jumping at you.
Yeah, it's just he's done it with my partner as well. He'll just sort of quite often he'll come when we call him, but he'll just shoot past us. He doesn't sort of stop. And with treats, we do use treats to sort of entice him, but sometimes he's not even bothered. He sort of is like he's not even that excited by a treat. So we do need to use something else because he's not always that bothered by a treat.
Maybe you ought to work on this backwards. Work on the bit when he gets to you. So start by calling him when he's about 3 feet away, and work on that bit. Maybe ask him to sit, because he can't sit and run past you at the same time, can he? I mean, I myself, I don't know, here again, Vic, what you feel. On the whole, I feel when you call a dog to you, you don't then ask it to sit normally, because the reward is for coming. It's not for sitting and doing any other tricks. But I think if your dog habitually charges past you or jumps at you and bites you, then if you need to find another thing for him to do that he can't do at the same time as those things you don't like him doing. So,
so I'll perhaps just need to really, when he does run to me, just really go over the top with the fuss. So that'll probably have the same effect.
Maybe not fuss. I think you need toy, because you see, if your fuss is going to be playing with your hands, and that means that your hands become playthings, which is you don't want, do you? I would say to begin with, you start calling him back very regularly when he's only a short way away, sort of 3-4 meters. Call him back when he hasn't got time to build up that momentum. And as soon as he sort of gets to you, he's not going to rush past. Ask him to do something. So that I would ask him to sit.
Okay.
And then give him his food.
Okay.
What would you do, Vic, with that?
Yeah, something very similar, to be honest, because I think, like you said, Theo, it might be that one time that you actually need to catch him because there's another dog there, or maybe there's a road close by or something, and he runs past you, and you're not going to be able to catch him. So I think if you by doing what Theo has suggested, starting off like we said earlier around no distractions, but getting the behavior that you want, so he's coming to you and sitting, which you can reward. In the end, once you've done that loads of times and you start building your distractions back in, you'll actually get an automatic sit when the dog comes to you. So the dog will, your dog will automatically sit in front of you because he knows, right, okay, mum calls me, I come towards her, I sit, that's when she gives me the food. So it almost becomes an automatic behavior. Like Theo said earlier, when you do it 200, 300, 400 times, it sounds like a lot, but when you do it in little bits throughout the day, you'll get an automatic behavior from it by the end, which you're not going to get that zooming around and he's going to come to you.
Yeah, and I suppose it's not a bad habit to get into, them sitting, but I think in the past, Theo, we've spoken about it, and I've said like exactly what you said, Theo, as in normally you reward them straight away for coming, don't you, without them getting to do something else.
Exactly, yeah.
And I thought, I've got to reward him now, and I'm almost forcing treat in his mouth, and he's looking at me like, I'm not bothered. And I'm like...
Well, if you get him, if you do it with short distances to begin with, and I wouldn't normally ask him to sit, but I think in your case, because he's all ready to bite your legs and things, if he does sit, then bring out your you'd have perhaps in your pocket something to tug or something. Just bring out something. Right now we'll have a game. You could perhaps throw him a frisbee or get him to tug that and throw it, but just do it once. I think you don't want to be doing lots of repetitive stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Certainly.
No. Okay.
Yes. I think that sort of covers recall, doesn't it? If you can get all the basics right, then you don't have the problem later on. Apart from perhaps if you have a sight hound, which sees something in the distance. I mean, that is a big challenge, isn't it? Because it's so bred to chase something moving and they can see from such a long way. I guess it just needs more and more of the groundwork than the other dogs do. And to begin with, I think the other thing we didn't discuss really is that it'd be good to try to prevent rehearsal of not obeying or not coming back. So that means that try not to call the dog if you know there's any doubt that he's going to not come. Because all you do then, you were saying that come is optional.
What are you supposed to do if you assess a situation and you think he will come to you and he just ignores you? What are you supposed to do?
I think I would perhaps, to start with, I would call just once. Well, you haven't set it up properly yet, have you, in that case? Because if that's the case, you haven't made yourself sexier than the squirrel. You haven't really made it. But if that happens, I think what I'd probably do is I'd call the dog, okay, and turn around.
Yeah, it's like walking
turn around and walk away.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I definitely wouldn't scold. I think I probably wouldn't do much in the way of a reward. I don't know if I'd reward in that. I don't know if I'd play in that circumstance. Would you, Vic?
Not necessarily. I think if it tends, and especially I see it with younger dogs, when they've got their nose in something and they've ignored you and you walk off and all of a sudden they realise you've gone, they tend to come running back towards you. I think I might reward maybe, a piece of kibble or something, but I wouldn't go full blown reward because I haven't asked for it. When I ask for it and I receive it, that's when that big stuff pays off.
Okay.
The thing is, you haven't quite done enough groundwork if you're calling him and he doesn't come. And I would say if you're going to think you want to call him, put him on a long line, because that way you call him and you can sort of ease him in. And when he's got to you, behave like he did it willingly and have your game, outwit him. Has anybody got any questions or would like to tell us anything what you do? Is there anything that, what do you do, Bex?
I think that he doesn't like to be away from it's me in particular. He doesn't necessarily like to be away from me. So normally if I whistle, he just comes straight back, doesn't he really? But I was just thinking about what you said. I don't practice in the house. Steve practices in the house, but I don't really practice like here or whistling in the house, or in the garden, because I don't really need to, because he's literally at my feet all the time. But I feel like maybe I do need to practice that a little bit more for those occasions where it's all a bit too exciting. So
yes, well, there are times, aren't there? Say when you're out as a family and your children are ahead, then he will run off to them, won't he?
Yeah, he's so he will run off with them. Yeah, he will run off with them. But then when I whistle, they stop as well. So he sort of came before the dog. So when I whistle, they know that they should stop, and then the dog just comes back anyway. But I think because of the age that he's at as well, I think we need to get a bit more confident about and more practice. I think we need to practice it a little bit more.
How old are your kids? How old are the children?
8 and 4.
You could almost, with you and Stephen and the older child, you could get 3 whistles, couldn't you? And sort of train the older child not to be whistling all the time, and whistle him even when you're out on a walk. Whistle him between you. From one to the other, because then he would start getting used to coming to the others, not just to you.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because I think that I'm going to work next week and Steve works from home, and we're having an issue with him in just walking with Steve on his own. Like, he doesn't like to leave the house with Steve on his own unless we're all together. And obviously he's going to have to do that because I won't be here. I do think that's a good idea, actually, if we get an actual whistle.
The thing is, at the moment, if he goes out for a walk without one of you, without you, he knows you're still at home, doesn't he? But it will be different, won't it? If Steve's just there by himself with the dog, then then I think maybe he won't be quite so worried that he's leaving you behind, because the kids are at school and you're at work.
Yeah, I think
it might be a bit different, mightn't it?
Yeah, I think he's worried that he's missing out, that something fun is going on in the house, and Steve's trying to take him away from the fun. Yeah.
He'll
So
probably
I think I've been out all day today. Yeah, I've been out all day today, and actually he's been really, really good, hasn't he, for you? And yeah, so I do think that hopefully that will be okay, and it'll just sort of correct itself a little bit.
It's actually it's an interesting one, Theo, because when it's just me and him, he's really cool with me. He's really, really good. So around the house and in the garden and things like that, as soon as Beck's home, he will ignore me, and it's really irritating.
Oh well, there you go. A lot of puppies are like that.
So I think I probably just have to be more fun by the sound of it.
Yeah, I just don't think he's funny.
I'm not fun enough.
From the dog's point of view, maybe Bex is more animated, and maybe perhaps you need to need to sort of on the quiet develop a few really fun games with him, so that you can then spring that on Bex when you want him to come to you.
Yeah, I think that he definitely needs to work on that, don't you, really?
Oh, dear. Right, let me look at little notes on the side. It looks as if it's just going to be us. So we'll have a little look at the biting on the legs and things again. And it's barking on walks whenever you stop. Not walk beyond the house next door if only one of us is walking him. Did you walk him today, Steve, when you were all alone during the day? Did you walk him today?
So
the weather isn't helping.
It was a bit
today.
of a disaster. Firstly, we live in Manchester and it's been teeming down all day. But besides that, I left and we got to the top of the street before I realised I hadn't taken everything that I need. So I went back, and then once I went back, I didn't come back. So we were actually doing all right. We were doing okay. It was my own fault today.
Well, that's at least you. And he didn't want to come home. He came home when you had to come home. So he walked okay.
It wasn't. Yeah, to be honest, it's really frustrating because okay might be a stretch. It wasn't as bad as normal.
Interesting to see how it goes tomorrow. Are you out again tomorrow, Bex?
Am I out tomorrow? Oh yeah, I am actually. Yes, yeah.
Well, maybe have another go and see what happens. But barking on walks whenever you stop.
So he barks.
Pardon?
So he barks. So if we stop, it doesn't matter what we're doing. So if we stop and maybe talk to somebody else, he barks his head off. Or like
kids are climbing a tree, or
if the kids stop and climb a tree, he barks his head off. It's like he's saying to us, why is everybody stopped? I want to carry on walking, but we can't always do that. So we took him to like a bit of a playground this weekend, which he was allowed to come to. Obviously he was on the lead, but the kids wanted to go on the slide, and every time we stopped, he just barked at us.
Relentlessly.
Maybe this is a moment for some fun with him. It might be that you need to associate stopping with one of you doing something he likes. Maybe that would be a good way to do it. So that once you stop, the children want to go on the slide or something, one of you need to have something in your pocket, like a taggy game or something which he likes. And maybe
well, we did
a ball.
Yeah, I did. We took a ball, and we also took like a tug rope with us, didn't we? And I don't know, I just sort of feel like and he wouldn't play with either of them, and we tried to play with them, didn't we? And the only thing that seems to stop him from barking is if we stroke his chest. But then obviously if we're talking to somebody, it's a little bit weird if
maybe. Okay, how about, have you used the clicker? Have you used it?
No, we have got a clicker, but we haven't ever used it.
Right, maybe, I don't know what you think about this, Vic, but maybe click him for being quiet. So say that you stop, he barks, ignore it completely. The very minute he stops, click. You're going to have some food he likes, some little bits of cheese perhaps. So the click, all that click means, have you ever done any clicker? You haven't, have you?
We started with the clicker and it worked really well. Don't know why we stopped.
Yeah, we don't know why we stopped.
The click, I can't hear you well. I think there's a bit of, the click means that very moment that he has done, that you click, he's doing something that you like. And then it means that some food is going to come in a minute. So if he's, say you stop and they start, and he doesn't even start barking, quick, catch it before he even starts. Click. And then give him some food. Now, I would suggest you drop the food because he's then got to put a little bit of effort in to pick up the food. Then he's going to look around again. He's probably going to think, oh, they've done another slide, they've stopped, I'm going to bark. Click him before he gets a chance to do it again. So you're clicking for quiet. If he does start barking, wait. He can't continue without drawing breath. He draws breath, click. See if you can do that, because I think he'll suddenly twig and he will start trying to earn clicks. I think that's what I would do. What would you do, Vic?
Yeah, very similar actually. I think I like to call it reward nothing. It's rewarding the dog for doing nothing, because that's exactly what you want him to do at that point.
Or you could reward him. You could reward him if he decided to sit.
Yep.
Because he's not going to bark and sit, is he? They don't usually bark sitting, do they? They stand to bark. So, you know, anything he sits or he relaxes or anything, you like, give him a click.
Yeah.
Take his tea with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would do.
Yeah.
Shall we have a little chat
that's
about?
a really good idea.
Have a go, and then let us know how it goes. Shall we have a little chat about the biting your legs, Rachel? Okay, shall we?
He only me. It's clearly very different with Dave, my other half. He's so different with him. I think he still sees me as a playmate rather than a, you know, we haven't quite got the level of, he's very different with me than what he is Dave. He's a lot, so it's like every day, put his harness on, we have a battle with that, like he's trying to bite at it, and then I take him out the front and he just, I turn my back to him, I cross my arms and ignore him. And eventually he will stop, but he just does it as standard now. He just starts tugging at his lead, even if I give him a short lead. And yeah.
I wonder how you can break this one down to basics. The first thing you're having a problem with is the harness, isn't it?
Yeah. So what I've started to do, which has been a bit better, is I actually get him between my legs, and I hold him steady, so that he hasn't got the room to be flapping about, and I have to just secure him so I can get it on without him sort of thinking, getting all the straps in his mouth, and that does seem to be helping.
Have you thought of putting something else in his mouth while you do it?
No, I haven't actually. I suppose anything. Yeah.
Well, find something he really likes and put it in his mouth, and then because the problem is he's got into a habit of doing this now. You want to get him out of that habit. I would find, first of all, something to put him in his mouth. The next thing I would do, if you can, is sit down on the floor so you're not looming over him. So there's no degree of anything which makes him feel uneasy, which might make him sort of react in an excited way. And then when you've got the harness on, I would put that harness on about 10-15 minutes before you intend to do anything. Let him calm down.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because actually I was thinking this today, I was like, it's almost so revved up from the harness situation. Sorry, that's my battery. Then when we go outside, he's sort of so revved up that it like continues. So yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. But the thing is, because the sort of harness I've got, it's for his head, and then the back bits there's like 2 straps, so it has to always sort of go over his mouth. Do you see what I mean?
Well, why
So
don't you hold the bit where his head goes through, hold the thing you want him, I don't know, something like a yak chew, that's what you want in his mouth. He has to put his own head through his harness to get the food. You let him have that, and now, because then he's willingly putting his own head through it, and then you can do that, can't you?
That's a good point. I'll definitely try that. And then, like you say, have a bit of a delay. And then
I would. If say you have a yak chew or something he likes, don't leave it about all the time. Have it specially only for the harness. Once he's got his harness on, let him have it for a little while, because that will help calm him down.
Yes.
Then the next thing then is you've got to put the lead on it, isn't it? And that is when the trouble starts, is it?
Yeah, so once the lead's on, he associates, once we leave the house and we get onto the grass, he associates the lead, tugging the lead and jumping up at my legs together.
Okay, well, is this in your little bit of enclosed garden?
No, this is out the front. So this
Okay, what happens if you walk around your enclosed garden without the lead on?
What, with his harness? I haven't really done that.
Does he try to jump at your legs and things when you're walking around your enclosed garden, or is it only when he's got the lead on?
He was actually, he didn't have his harness on, but the other night I was just playing ball with him in the garden, and he just kept jumping up at my legs and actually biting at my jeans over and over again. So I just went in and stopped playing with him in the end.
The thing is, it's when you get him too excited, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, what I would do, if you can, is set him up. If you could, if say you walked around the garden, don't play ball because that gets him excited, okay? And start to teach him when he comes towards you, when you think he's going to come and bite you, teach him something else. It's like everything. He needs to do something else. He can't do at the same time as biting you. Now, what I would do, and maybe you could do this with the lead on, if it's a nice longish lead, is have some food with you. Have something which is maybe a little bit bigger and round. Something where as soon as you see him with that look in his eyes coming towards you, roll it away. As soon as so he is then going to stop in his tracks, turn around and run away from you. Yeah. And then he's going to pick up the food when he's away from you. Now you might think that's rewarding him for coming and biting you, but it isn't. It's rewarding him for running away, because that's when he gets the food, when he's gone away.
So I would start away from me then, sort of. Would I actually sort of throw the food a bit away?
I would roll it so he's got something to chase, because what he wants to do is chase and bite your legs. So instead of putting a lid on that, which means he's still got that fire in him, you're actually redirecting it onto something he can do. I would try that for a bit. And you could do it perhaps with rolling a ball. Pardon?
What, roll the treat, sorry, or the ball?
Yes, roll the treat. I would say if he's coming to chase you, roll the treat away from you. He's got to see it in order to treat. So you might need to do several of them to begin with. So he basically has to, sorry?
Roll that. Treats I've got probably wouldn't roll that well, to be honest.
Well, fine bits. Is he a good eater? I can't remember.
Yeah, he's never that fussed by his food, to be honest. He'll eat, but he never goes mad for it.
Well, you need to find something he likes. Something small, which he likes, maybe some bits of grated cheese. Throw it the other way. So the movement makes him want to go after it.
Yeah, okay.
And then he's rewarded then when he gets it for being away from you. Now, in a way, you're then trying to show him what you do want him to do. The other thing is a flirt pole. Would you use a flirt pole, Vic, for that?
Yeah, actually, I really like a flirt pole, especially for dogs that have got that sort of high energy. They want to grab, they want to chase stuff, but it also teaches them that little bit of impulse control as well when you've got a flirt pole. But it's interesting, Theo, because I was working with a dog at Cheltenham Animal Shelter, and he was a biter and a humper. And the technique that you've described is the very technique that I used when working with him. Throwing out, he loved a ball, so just throwing out the ball, and whether he was on lead or whether he was out when we were just playing in the paddock, rolling or throwing that ball away worked exceptionally well. And he got to the point where he would run up and then look at me as if to
Yes.
say,
Okay,
where's this
the
ball
ball?
then?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, flirt pole as well, fantastic. You know, I love flirt pole. It's one of my favourite exercises.
You know,
So.
if the puppies or the pup's going to be biting your legs and your trousers, really, he's fired up with this biting bug, and you know, just stopping him isn't really going to help because he's still got it in. It's so good to redirect it to something else. You know what a flirt pole is, do you? You know flirt pole, do you? Just for the sake of the, do you know what a flirt pole is?
Is it just like a thing that you have, like a thing on a string, basically?
It's a bit like a fishing rod with a say something he likes on the end of it.
Oh, okay.
So you can get him, you know. Do you, when you play with the flirt pole, do you ever let the dog actually catch the thing?
Yes, we do. So I use it quite a lot for obedience with my German Shepherd. You know, they're quite bitey, mouthy dogs.
Yeah.
So the way I would use it is I might ask him to do a behaviour for me, sit down, stay, middle, or whatever, and I start flicking it around. And then once he say hold it for 2 or 3 seconds, I say get it, and then he chases it for a bit, and then he gets it, and then he gets to have a little chew on it, and then I do an out, he drops it, and we do the same thing again. So for dogs, like Theo said, for dogs that really want to grab something and chew at something, you are allowing them to do it, but in the way that you want them to do it, not them jumping up and biting at you. So for sure. And you can teach other exercises with it as well to keep it interesting.
Yeah. I suppose really before I even go on the walk, I've got to have a little play with him to calm him down. Really.
Yes, the thing is, you know, play can go 2 ways, can't it? If you're in some ways, play can make him more fired up.
Yeah.
I think it's a question of redirecting the fire he's already got in him to something which is acceptable. And as Vic says, if you can then start, say, getting him even to wait a moment before he's allowed to go and chase the thing, you know, just get him that little bit of impulse control. I mean, start easy.
Yeah, it's so because I do majority of his walking and I'm with him all the time. I'm not working at the moment, and it seems when I see Dave take him out, he never does him. He just
really annoying. It's the other way around with Steve and Bex, isn't it? Oh,
so yeah, he's just, well, I actually watched them the other day walk out, and Ted was just, you know, and I thought, you never ever. But yeah,
take some equipment with you. Yeah.
How that feels.
My pockets get fuller and fuller every time I go out with him. I'm going to have to start taking everything.
With a rucksack.
Yeah, I do. Okay, thank you.
And now there's the thing. Before we finish, perhaps we ought to look at that. You've heard of the rucksack walk, have you, Vic?
Oh yeah, I love the rucksack walk.
Steve Mann's rucksack walk. Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. And now that would probably be a really good thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It was hard to explain.
In fact, let me go and get my rucksack, Theo, and then I can show you what's in it then whilst you explain it.
Okay, right.
Get it.
So what the rucksack walk is that you take the dog some quiet place and you have in your rucksack various items. Vic will show you what they are, and the items you're going to share with the dog. And you sit down and take things out one at a time, basically share these things with the dog, you know, something to smell, something to look at. And there's a certain amount, I think, of recall and play. I can't quite remember now the detail. I'm hoping Vic remembers the detail. But what I'll do when we finish, I will post somewhere. I'll post on I'll know who you are. I'll tag you into it. A description of the rucksack walk. But it's really nice. If a dog is really excited and really aroused, it's a really brilliant way to calm down. And it's also a very good way also if a dog is scared.
That's a good, yeah. That's a good idea, because I just have a bag which has like poo bags and different things in it, and I just started to take that with me so that I don't forget anything, because sometimes, like when the weather's been nice, I haven't necessarily had pockets. So it's just been easy to throw this bag, but it's not a rucksack, so it would be better if I had something that was more
Well, this particular thing, I bet is going to remember it better than
on the dog hook, and then that bag.
Hopefully Bet's going to remember this better than me, but she will show you what this particular rucksack is for. It's not really to carry your things about. It's a different thing, isn't it? You're going to tell us about it. I've forgotten how it goes.
So basically, it's almost like going on a walk without really going anywhere. So you want to try and find a nice quiet spot somewhere. You can even do it in your garden, really. But the idea is you pack this rucksack full of all sorts of different things that you think your dog might enjoy. And you spend this time either walking or staying in the same sort of location, going through these different types of things, playing different games, using different sensory pieces of equipment. So I've got all sorts of different things in here for different scenarios. So this is a scent pot. So we do a bit of scent work. So we've got some scent stuff in here. So that usually smells like cloves. So that's something we've got. This is a Tug Enough toy. So it's got a ball on it, but it's also got a bit of tuggy stuff. I think this is actually sheep. So all that sort of good stuff. We've got dumbbells, because we better do a bit of dumbbell work with the dog. So a bit of retrieving type things. We've got cones. So you can put kibble underneath them, or play a bit of hide and seek and stuff like that. I also use them for muzzle training. So you put a bit of treat in there, the dog puts the nose in, puts the face in it, gets them used to putting their face into things. What else have I got in here? I've got more tugs, rings. I've got these little cool things, which you can put toys and stuff like that in, and treats. And I think this is called a clam. And then you can put it together, and you can throw it, and the dog has to rip it open to get what's inside. And you can put a little ball in there if they're into balls, or you can put treats and things like that in. There's also a whole load of other stuff in here. Oh, I bought you a flirt pole as well, so you could see what a flirt pole is. So it opens out like this.
Yeah.
And it has a little tuggy thing on the end. And you sort of swish it around like that, and then the dog grabs that bit.
A bigger version.
Yeah, it is. It's almost like a lunging whip you'd use for horses.
The thing with the rucksack is each of these items you actually share with the dog, don't you?
Yes.
So if there's something to smell, you sniff it, and then the dog sniffs it.
Yeah.
And maybe if you eat a little something and you give a little something to the dog, don't you? So it's very much like you share. You're having a little party, aren't you?
You're having a little party, you're sort of sharing the experience with your dog. And the idea is, people just sort of get into just walking their dogs, but not really taking in much of what's going on, or actually paying much attention to their dog. So it's a really nice relationship building exercise, really, and an enrichment activity for the dog as well. So yeah, and you can put all sorts of stuff in it, just all random things that you sort of find.
Now, I reckon that would be a very good one for Steve. So if say your dog is a little bit unwilling to go out with you, don't go far, find a little corner somewhere, sit down and share. I mean, what with Steve Mann, when he did, he had a tea bag in there for the dog to sniff. He had, some really ordinary things that a dog hasn't met before. And I would say it's a really good confidence builder for a dog.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's why we've got some sort of sniffy things and things like that in here. I love to sort of just bring the most random things that you can kind of find, and introduce them to things they already know, and mix them together, then change it up and use something they've never seen before. Like you said, Theo, once you've gone, oh, what's this? And you show your interest in it, the dog then automatically goes, oh, hang on a minute, what is that? I want to have a look at that. And then the whole sort of game begins almost.
Yes, I think that is the thing about involving yourself, which is really the whole thing about the sexier than a squirrel, is that involving yourself in something. It's not just giving the dog something, it's sharing it. And that's right. Oh, that's great. Thanks, Vic.
No problem.
I'm going to get some things.
Proper training. Do you think sort of covered the things that, is there anything else anybody would like to discuss before we finish?
No, that's everything from my side. Thank you. I've got a few things to try and order.
Give it a go and see what happens.
We're all going to be on Amazon. All these special things for our rucksacks.
Yes. I will try to find, when I went to Steve Mann's talk, he wouldn't give us a copy of the video, unfortunately. So I wrote down, and I wrote it very carefully, every single thing he said, and somebody else added to it. So I've got this document, which I will actually put it somewhere on the group. All right. And then you can read it. And it's really, it was he made it very funny, didn't he, Vic?
He did, yeah. No, it's fantastic. I think, and it seems to be, nobody'd ever really thought of it before, but once we all sort of heard it, we were like, that's a fantastic idea. You know, it's something definitely everybody should at least try with their dog, for sure.
It's all to do with going out and not trying to cover distance.
Yeah.
It's filling the time with value rather than just putting your, following your mobile phone, putting your phone and sort of getting the walk over and done with.
Yeah.
Anyway, and that is really.
Yeah, I think that
Sorry.
Just making it more fun for him, I think, yeah.
Which I think actually brings us to a nice conclusion, because that is what recall's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the more you're involved and the more relevant you are, the more likely the dog's going to want to come back to you.
Mm.
So, anyway, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks ever so much.
Okay, you're okay with
very much.
putting the recording up, aren't you? You're happy with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Right. Okay then.
Thanks,
Bye,
then.
thanks for your help.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
No
Bye, Rachel.
problem.
Bye.